is the China policy out of this White House, in your view?
Oh, it's in shambles. I mean, they're been fearful to even continue policies from the prior administration, claiming that in their wokeness that they're concerned that they could be targeting individuals. Well, of course, they would be targeting our adversary, China. In this instance, I think that the abstention in the United Nations in support of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and their annexation of portions of Ukraine goes right to China's threats to Taiwan.
That's House Intelligence Committee Ranking Member Congressman Mike Turner speaking to Maria last month on President Biden's China policy. Biden recently met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the G20 in Indonesia, where the White House says they discussed a range of issues from Taiwan to the origins of COVID. The meeting comes as China holds nearly $1 trillion in U.S. national debt, and intellectual property theft by the CCP has been on the rise. Meanwhile, protests have broken out in China over the CCP's zero COVID policies, with some demonstrators even calling for President Xi to step down. Joining me now is Wisconsin Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher, a member of the House Intel Committee and House Armed Services Committee. Mike, or Congressman, good to see you. I want to get your take on this protest that's happening in China right now over the zero COVID policy. You don't see people in China taking to the streets, and you also don't see them calling for Xi's removal. Is China starting to crack?
Well, I don't think the control of the Chinese Communist Party is starting to crack. Xi purged any dissenters at the 20th Party Congress, but they will continue to crack down on their citizens, and who knows where that leads. I mean, think where we are. 3 years after a virus that likely leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China, they're still welding Chinese people into their apartments. We've had apartment buildings burned down with people locked inside. We have toddlers being taken from their parents and put into quarantine camps. They're using the pretense of public health in order to institute a system of total techno-totalitarian control. And that's not just for domestic use. That's a model of repression they want to export around the world. And ultimately, what the Chinese Communist Party fears more than anything else is its own citizens. It represses the citizens because it knows that they are an illegitimate entity. They don't have legitimacy from the population. They fear their own citizens. And so we need to, as the CCP cracks down and doubles down on oppression, we need to double down on freedom. That's how we win over the long term, right? We have too many people bashing America and America. We have too many useful idiots in the American media. We need to embrace American values as a self-evident contrast to the Orwellian oppression of the CCP. That's how we win the ideological fight over the long term, by remembering that we're the good guys.
You know, it's a good point, but what's troubling to me, Congressman, is that you have so many American business leaders, the World Economic Forum, Davos, Klaus Schwab, all look and say the model of the future is China. I would agree with you. The model should be freedom. But I want to get your take on this. You're on the Intel Committee. America has over $30 trillion in debt. $1 trillion of that is owned by the Chinese. Obviously, we've given them an economic nuclear bomb. Is the threat of this debt owned by China being considered by Intel?
Not sufficiently. One thing we've discovered is that when we war game out, let's say a Taiwan scenario, we war game out the kinetic side, the conventional military side. We rarely include treasury, commerce. We rarely war game the financial and economic escalation. We saw this in Ukraine, both in 2014 and in this past year. We had to sort of improvise and make up our financial and economic warfare strategy. The same is true with China. And at the same time, Xi is preparing his citizenry for economic warfare with the West. We also just need to get our own fiscal house in order. It's insane. You mentioned $30 trillion, but we have unfunded liabilities to the tune of over $100 trillion. We can't just increase the debt ceiling without structural reforms. There are things we can do, whether it's the REINS Act, whether it's the Federal Government Worker Attrition Act, whether there's a variety of structural reforms we need. Otherwise, we're just going to destroy ourselves long before the Chinese Communist Party beats us in a war over Taiwan.
Yeah, no, our currency is going to collapse. I mean, you can't keep borrowing and spending this way for much longer. I want to get your take on this. We now know that Chinese-aligned companies are mining data on American citizens. For example, TikTok, a very popular app that a lot of our kids use. Donald Trump was pushing a separation of TikTok from the CCP, but other companies are doing that. Is that something that Congress should be looking at? Rules should be in place that the Chinese Communist Party shouldn't be mining data off of American citizens?
TikTok should be banned. Senator Marco Rubio and I have legislation that does exactly that. TikTok is digital fentanyl, addicting our kids. And just like actual fentanyl, it ultimately goes back to the Chinese Communist Party. TikTok is owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is controlled by the CCP. That means the CCP can track your location. It can track your keystrokes. It can censor your news. Why would we give our foremost adversary that amount of power? Oh, by the way, TikTok is using the swamp against us. They're hiring an army of lobbyists, including former congressmen, senators, 31 former high-level congressional staffers, in order to do their bidding. No paycheck is worth that, okay? We need to ban TikTok.
You know, speaking of TikTok, I'm thinking of social media here. Elon Musk just tweeted out a picture of a closet full of Stay Woke T-shirts at Twitter. He's now committed to saying, listen, I'm going to make this a free speech platform. He may actually release the information about how the Hunter Biden laptop was censored, why it was censored. Do you have some hope that freedom might actually reign on the internet and social media apps with Elon Musk taking the helm of Twitter?
Well, I hope so. I don't know. I guess my more Luddite view is that we're all just spending too much time on social media. But I think full transparency is something that's welcome, particularly on the Hunter Biden story. By the way, there's something we can do in a Republican-controlled House here. We should investigate. We should subpoena everybody that, for example, signed that letter, former high-level intelligence community officials that signed a letter saying that this was all Russian disinformation. Well, turns out it wasn't. Turns out that was a lie. And if people are abusing their current or former posts in the intelligence community to meddle in American politics, I think that's something we should investigate.
Congressman, the power of the majority is the power of the gavel. You can subpoena people. You can have hearings. I'm looking forward to seeing that after January 3rd when Republicans take control. Mike Gallagher, Congressman from Wisconsin, thanks for joining me.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.